Welcome back to the channel. So today we will be solving this thoughtworks SQL interview question. So basically this interview problem is very interesting and you will learn a lot of things. I really found this very interesting problem and let's see the input and output and the challenge that we need to solve, right? So here in the input, you can see we have only two columns, user 1 ID, user 2 ID, and in the output, we have three columns, user 1 ID, user 2 ID in the common thread. Okay, now let's read the challenge that we need to solve. Challenge is a friendship between a pair of friends X and Y is strong if X and Y have at least three common friends. Okay, so basically this column 1 and column 2, these two are the friendship. So basically the meaning of these two columns are 1 is a friend of 2, and similarly we can say that 2 is a friend of 1, and this column, the user 1, the criteria here is the user 1 will always be lesser than user 2. So it would be like you can see here, like all the values here in this user 1 column are less than user 2 column. User 1 is less than user 2. So this is the criteria basically to have a friendship. Okay. Now let's read the rest part of the question. Write a SQL query to find the all the strong friendship. Okay. So here the strong friendship mean, let me write strong friendship mean at least three three or more users should be common. Three or more users should be common, or you can say that the friend should be common, right? So this is what the first line indicate. A friendship between a pair of friend X and Y is strong if X and Y have at least three common friends, right? So that we will see how this output is getting generated. Let me read the entire statement first. Note that the result table should not contain a duplicate with user ID 1 is less than user 2 ID. Okay, to have a friendship, user 1 ID should be less than user 2 ID. Okay, I think the problem statement is clear, right? Okay, now let's understand how this output is getting generated from the input, right? Okay, so we can see here uh, we have three distinct user 1 ID, right? So let me create the friendship first. So for user 1, who all are the friend of user 1? So we can see that 2, okay. We can see that 3. For 1 we have 4. For 1 we have 5. For 1 we have 7. For 1 we have 6, right? And if we read from the other side, so here we don't have any one user. So this is the final for 1. And for 2, let's read. For 2 we have 3. 3 is a friend of 2. And similarly for 2 we have 4. For 2 we have 5. For 2 we have 6. Okay, so these are the friend of 2. Okay, now let's read for the 3. Like here we have a 2 also, right? Like here we have 2, so the 2 also will say my friend is 1, so here 1 will also come, right? Similarly for 3, so here if we read 3, for 3 we have 7, and for 3 we have 6. So this is from this way, like when user 1 says, hey user, these guys are my friends, when user 2 will say, hey these guys are my friend. So let me write for user 3. So user 3 it is 1. For user 3 it is 2. For user 3 there is no such user. Okay, so as of now let's have these only, like for better understanding. And for the other user we can also find, right? For 7, for 7 let me write for one more user. For 7, let me write for 7 we have 1. For 7 we have 3, right? So all these things, like other than these three ID, you will not see any ID where we have more than uh, three common user. Okay, okay, now let's understand this part basically, how this. So basically if you see between 1 and 2, between 1 and 2, which all are the common IDs? So you can see 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So we have 4 common frame, and since 4 is greater than 3, so this is our answer. Greater than or equal to 3, this is our answer, right? Similarly, between 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Let's see. We have between 1 and 3, 7 is there. Yes, 7. 6 is there. Yes, 6 is there. 1 is there. Sorry, 2 is there. Yes, we have 2. So we have 3 common friends, right? That is 7, 6, and 2. So that's why we can see 3 and 4 over here, right? I think the input is also clear. Output is also clear. Now, let's see how we can approach this problem, right? So let's see that. To begin with the approach, what we can like, let's understand the logic first. Here, if one is saying one is a friend of two, then true will also say I'm a friend of one, right? And the meaning of these columns are like here user one, let me not read this ID. So user one is saying, user one column is saying, hey, I'm having one and my friend is two. Similarly, I'm having two, my friend is three. Similarly, if we read from the other side, like five will say, hey, my friend is one. Seven will say, hey, my friend is one, right? So what we can do, we can union these two columns, right? Let me explain you how this thing will make sense. So like here one is saying I'm a friend of two and two is saying I'm a friend of one. So what we can do, we can bring these things like to generate all possible combinations. We can have it here, and similarly we can have it here. Like the user like user one ID is becoming user two ID, and user 2 ID is becoming user 1 ID, right? This is simple to understand because this thing is true. If one is friend of two, then two can also say I am friend of one. So I think this thing is clear, right? Now, let's do till this point, then we will see the next thing, right? So let's code it up till that point. So this is the friendship table. Let me run this. Okay. So this you can see we have 12 records. Now we will have 14, like 24 records, right? What we will do, we will just union it. So we'll write union, and instead of writing star, we will write everything, like entire column, user one, user two, okay? And we can just copy paste this. And here we need to make it user two and name would be user one. If we don't write this, that will also work because it takes the column name of the first table. And here we can write user one, and we can have here as user two, right? User two ID. Okay, let me run this. Now you can see we have 24 records, 12 from one way and 12 from other way. Okay, now let me put these things in the CD with CD as, and we can write select from CD and put it here star. Okay, I think till this point it is clear. We have generated all possible friendship. Basically, when like one is saying I'm friend of three, then we should have one more record where three is also saying I'm friend of one. Till this point we have done, right? Now the next criteria is, now the next thing is, we need to have a user like the user ID to have a friendship. User ID like user one ID should be less than user 2 ID, right? This is the criteria. And the friend should be, first criteria is this, right? And the second criteria is the friend of user 1 should be equal to friend of user 2, user 2, right? So can you like, are you getting the flavor of self-join? I think you should. Why? Because we are talking about two different table, and since we don't have two different table, we have only one table. So we can like make this table as a second table, right? We can have self-join, right? So this is what I'm like trying to say. Let me. So this is the table one basically. the self join is required to generate all possible combinations. Okay, so let me write this as table 1. This question is little tricky to understand, right? But this is very interesting problem. So this is table 1 where we have, right? This is table 1, and what we will do, we will generate a table 2 also. So we just need to copy paste this. So this is table 2, right? And here we can just write this. We can write table 2. Okay. So this is the basically 2 table. Now we will fulfill the criteria. Now we will fulfill the criteria. So let me write the formula, and that formula we will implement in code. Okay, let me write via the screen. Okay, so what we will say, this is the user 1, this is the user 1. So user 1 ID is saying, hey, user 2 ID is my friend. Here also this is saying this is my friend. So the criteria would be, let's assume this is the table 1 and this is the table 2. So we will say table 1 dot user 1 ID should be less than table 2 dot user user 1 ID, right? So this ID should always be lesser than this ID, and the second condition would be, like, if 1 2 3, we have three people, and one is saying, hey, my friend is 4, 2 is also saying my friend is 4, then the condition would be 1 should be less than 4, 1 should be less than 2, so this 2, and these two guys should be same, right? Similarly, I'm saying user 1 ID is less than user 2 user 1 ID of the second table, and these two guys should be same, right? So the condition would be table 1 dot user 2 ID should be equal to table 2 dot user 2 ID, right? So this is the condition basically we need to write in the code. So let me code it up. So we can write this as table 1, table 1, inner join with ct as table 2. Let me remove this, and on which table 1 dot user ID should be less than table 2 dot user 1 ID, and let me put this in the parenthesis so that it doesn't create any issue. Table 1 dot user 2 ID should be equal to table, like this is the case which we are writing. This column user 2 should be equal to user 2 ID of the second table. Then we will be saying ki, hey, user 1 and user 2 are having a friendship. So table 2 dot user 2 ID, right? So let me run this. So this will generate all possible combination. Okay, I think I made a issue. This should be this. Okay, I think, see here, we have all possible combination. Now the next thing is, now the next thing is, uh, now the next thing is, let's first understand this. Okay, let's understand for the user one. So user one, let me copy this thing and explain you over there. So it will be easy for us to understand. Let's copy paste this. So this was user one ID. I think this was user two. Yeah, this is user two, user one, user two. This is user two ID, and we can just copy paste this. Okay, and let's understand for user one, right? Let me highlight this. Okay, now, okay. So see here, this is, so basically this column is user one, and this is also user one. This is user 1, user 1, user 2, user 2. Okay. So see here, user 1 is less than user 2, right? User, okay, I'm making mistake. Yeah, no. So this is less than this. This is correct. And these things are what? Common, right? Okay. So user 1 is less than user 2. This is correct. And user 2 of these two are common. So we can say that 2 is the common friend in these IDs, right? So this is what we got. So basically the next step will be just to group by on these two columns to get our final answer, right? So we can just write group by t1 dot user 1 ID is comma t2 dot user 1 ID, right? And we can just have it here, right? And we can name alias this as user 1 ID and here as user 2 ID, right? So, and we can find the count. So we will get the common friend basically. Count friend as common, right? So let me run this. Okay. Now between all these user, we have the common friend. So if you see, um, between 1 and 2 we have 4 common friends, right? Similarly, for what was our next answer, between 1 and 3 we have 3 common friends. Now the only thing is, since we are using the group by to filter this, we will have to use having clause. So we can say having count 1 should be greater than 2. If it is greater than 2, then it is at least 3 or more, right? Let me run this. Yes, we have got our required output. So yes, I think this was the code, but the code is quite tricky to code it up, right? So if you like this content, please do like and subscribe the channel. And if you have not understood this, try to like watch it again and try to do the dry run the way I have done, right? It will be very much clear. And you can check out our other playlists also. We have a lot of interview related content on this channel. So yes, let's meet in the next problem. Until then, bye.